Master yourself first. Master yourself first. Then, nothing in this world can stop you. What if the greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you want is not your circumstances, your enemies, your past, your lack of money, or the people who doubt you? What if the real battle has been happening inside you all along? Because there is a version of you that is powerful enough to remain calm when everything goes wrong, disciplined enough to act when motivation disappears, and detached enough to walk away from what destroys your peace. That version of you is not waiting for the world to change. It is waiting for you to master yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to control everything except the one thing they actually have power over. They want to control what other people think, how other people behave, whether people respect them, whether circumstances go according to plan, whether life gives them what they believe they deserve. And while they are trying to control the outside world, their own mind remains restless. Their emotions pull them in different directions. Their impulses make decisions for them, and their fears quietly determine the limits of their lives. The Stoics understood something that most people discover only after years of frustration. You cannot command the world to obey you, but you can train yourself not to become a slave to the world. That distinction changes everything. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by political pressure, war, betrayal, illness, uncertainty, and responsibilities that most ordinary people could never imagine carrying. Yet the foundation of his philosophy was not about controlling every external event. It was about governing himself in the middle of those events. Epictetus taught a similar principle from a completely different position in life. He understood that freedom begins internally. A person may have very little control over circumstances and still possess tremendous control over their judgments, choices, responses, and character. This is where your transformation begins. Not when everyone finally understands you. Not when you become wealthy, not when your enemies disappear, not when life becomes easier. It begins when you stop handing control of your inner world to whatever happens around you. Master yourself first, because if you cannot control your attention, someone else will control it for you. If you cannot control your emotions, someone else can manipulate them. If you cannot control your impulses will control your future. If you cannot control your reactions, every difficult person you meet becomes your master. Think about how easily one sentence can change your entire mood. Someone criticizes you, and suddenly your peace disappears. Someone ignores you, and you begin questioning your worth. Someone succeeds, and jealousy enters your mind. Someone disrespects you, and you spend the entire day imagining what you should have said. The event lasts for a moment, but you continue the event inside your mind. That is where much of human suffering comes from. The Stoics were not teaching people to become emotionless machines. They were teaching people not to surrender their judgment to emotion. There is a difference. Anger can appear without being obeyed. Fear can appear without becoming your decision maker. Sadness can exist without becoming your identity. Desire can arise without becoming your master. Mastery does not mean that you never feel anything. It means that what you feel does not automatically decide what you do. This is one of the deepest forms of freedom a person can develop. Imagine waking up and realizing that your mood no longer depends completely on whether someone messages you, whether your plans work out, whether someone praises you, or whether the world gives you the respect you expected. Imagine being able to experience disappointment without becoming defeated by it. Imagine being criticized without immediately becoming defensive. Imagine being rejected without begging for acceptance. Imagine losing something valuable without losing yourself along with it. That is strength, not the appearance of strength, real strength. The person who has mastered themselves does not need to dominate every room. They do not need to prove that they are the smartest person. They do not need to win every argument. They do not need to make everyone understand their side of the story. They have something more valuable than constant victory. They have command over themselves. And this is why self-mastery must come before everything else. You can have money and still be controlled by greed. You can have success and still be controlled by approval. You can have intelligence and still be controlled by anger. You can have influence and still be controlled by insecurity. You can have everything the world admires and still be unable to sit alone with your own thoughts. External success without internal mastery is a beautiful prison. You may appear powerful while being completely controlled from within. The person who needs constant validation is controlled by other people's opinions. The person who cannot resist temptation is controlled by desire. The person who explodes whenever challenged is controlled by anger. The person who constantly compares themselves to others is controlled by comparison. The person who cannot tolerate discomfort is controlled by comfort. The Stoic path asks a harder question. Who is controlling you? And if the answer is your emotions, your impulses, your fears, your cravings, your need for approval, or the opinions of strangers, then your work has not yet begun. Your first responsibility is to take back command of your own mind. This begins with learning to create distance between what happens and what you do about it. Something happens. Your mind immediately creates an interpretation. That interpretation produces an emotion. That emotion creates an impulse. And the impulse wants action. Most people move through this chain automatically. Something happens, they react. Someone speaks, they respond. Someone insults them, they attack. Someone withdraws, they chase. Someone rejects them, they beg. Someone succeeds, they compare. Someone fails them, they become bitter. The Stoic trains themselves to interrupt the chain. Something happens. They observe it. They examine their judgment. They ask what is actually within their control. Then they choose their response. That small space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. The world can throw circumstances at you, but it cannot force you to become a certain kind of person. You still have a choice in how you meet the moment. This does not mean pretending that pain is not real. It means refusing to add unnecessary suffering to unavoidable pain. If someone betrays you, the betrayal hurts. But spending months destroying your peace by replaying the betrayal is another wound you create yourself. If someone rejects you, rejection hurts. But convincing yourself that rejection proves you are worthless is a judgment you added to the event. If you lose an opportunity, disappointment is natural, but deciding that your entire future is finished is not a fact. It is a conclusion. The Stoic learns to separate the event from the story, and when you master that distinction, something extraordinary begins to happen. You become harder to manipulate. People can still disappoint you, but they cannot easily destroy your peace. They can criticize you, but you can examine the criticism without immediately collapsing or attacking. They can walk away, but you no longer believe that their departure means you have lost your value. They can misunderstand you, but you no longer feel compelled to spend your life proving yourself to everyone. This is not coldness. This is emotional independence. And emotional independence is one of the greatest forms of power you can possess. But self-mastery goes deeper than controlling reactions. You must also learn to control where your attention goes. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own. Every day, the world competes for it. Notifications want it. Social media wants it. Arguments want it. Other people's achievements want it. Fear wants it. Entertainment wants it. Drama wants it. And if you do not deliberately decide where your attention belongs, something else will decide for you. A person who cannot control their attention cannot fully control their life, because your life eventually moves in the direction of whatever repeatedly occupies your mind. If you spend your days thinking about people you dislike, you are giving them space inside your life without charging them rent. If you spend your days comparing yourself to people online, you are allowing strangers to determine how you feel about your own progress. If you spend hours consuming content, but almost no time building yourself, you are training your mind to consume rather than create. If you constantly chase stimulation, silence begins to feel uncomfortable. And when silence becomes uncomfortable, you lose one of the places where self-knowledge develops. The Stoics valued reflection because they understood that an undisciplined mind can become its own enemy. You need moments when you can ask yourself difficult questions. What am I becoming? What am I allowing to control me? Where am I acting against my own values? What am I repeatedly doing, even though I know it weakens me? What am I blaming other people for that I need to take responsibility for? What would change if I stopped waiting for someone else to rescue me? These questions are uncomfortable because they remove excuses. But that discomfort is useful. Growth often begins where excuses end. You cannot master yourself while constantly blaming everyone else. There will always be people who treated you unfairly. There will always be circumstances you did not choose. There will always be moments when life gives you something you did not deserve. But your power begins when you stop asking only, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What will I do with what happened?" That question changes your position. It moves you from victimhood toward responsibility. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing the part of the situation that belongs to you. You may not control what someone did. You control what you become afterward. You may not control how someone treated you. You control whether their behavior turns you into someone you do not respect. You may not control what opportunity disappears. You control whether you use the loss as an excuse or as a reason to become stronger. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes practical. It stops being something you admire and becomes something you practice. Every difficult moment becomes training. Every irritation becomes training. Every temptation becomes training. Every rejection becomes training. Every delay becomes training. Every uncomfortable conversation becomes training. You begin to see life differently. Instead of asking why life keeps testing you, you start asking what the test is developing in you. Patience, discipline, courage, restraint, wisdom, endurance, character. The obstacle is no longer simply something standing in your way. It becomes something that can shape the person walking through it. And this is why mastering yourself can make you extraordinarily difficult to stop. Because when you stop depending on perfect circumstances, you become adaptable. When you stop depending on constant praise, you become independent. When you stop depending on motivation, you become disciplined. When you stop depending on other people's approval, you become free. When you stop allowing every emotion to command you, you become stable. When you stop needing life to be easy, difficulty becomes training. The world does not suddenly become easier. You become stronger at meeting it. That is the difference. The goal is not to build a life where nothing goes wrong. The goal is to build a mind that does not collapse every time something goes wrong. And that transformation begins with something simple but demanding. You must become the person you can trust. When you tell yourself you will do something, do it. When you decide to stop a destructive habit, begin. When you know something needs to change, stop negotiating endlessly with yourself. Because every time you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your mind learns something dangerous. It learns that your own decisions are optional. You say you will wake up earlier, but you keep pressing the alarm. You say you will exercise, but you keep finding reasons not to. You say you will stop wasting hours online, but you return to the same habit. You say you will control your temper, but the smallest provocation pulls you back into the same reaction. Eventually, you stop trusting yourself. Self-mastery begins when that relationship is repaired. You do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You need to start keeping small promises to yourself. Do the difficult thing when you said you would. Finish what you started. Walk away when you know something is beneath your values. Speak when silence would be cowardice. Remain silent when speaking would only create unnecessary conflict. Choose discipline when comfort is tempting. Choose truth when deception would be easier. Choose patience when anger wants immediate action. Every time you make a decision aligned with your principles, you strengthen your character, and character is built through repeated choices. Eventually, discipline stops feeling like punishment. It becomes identity. You no longer say, "I am trying to become disciplined." You become someone who simply does what needs to be done. That is when the transformation becomes visible, not because the world suddenly recognizes you, but because you no longer need the world to confirm who you are. You know. And when a person knows who they are, what they stand for, and what they refuse to become, they become much harder to control. The world can challenge such a person. It can delay them. It can reject them. It can disappoint them. It can even knock them down. But it cannot easily make them betray themselves. That is the kind of strength the Stoics were trying to cultivate. Not the strength to control everyone else, the strength to remain in command of yourself. And once you begin building that kind of inner authority, you discover that the greatest battle was never against the world. It was always the battle to become your own master. Master yourself first. Master yourself first. Then nothing in this world can stop you. The moment you begin mastering yourself, your relationship with the world begins to change. You stop demanding that life cooperate with your expectations, and you begin developing the strength to remain steady when it does not. You stop asking why everyone else is not changing, and you start asking whether you are becoming the person you claim you want to be. This is where real transformation becomes visible. You begin to understand that discipline is not simply waking up early, working hard, or forcing yourself to accomplish goals. Discipline is the ability to govern yourself when nobody is watching. It is choosing what matters most over what feels best in the moment. It is refusing to trade your future for temporary comfort. Comfort is not evil. Rest is not weakness. Pleasure is not the enemy. The danger begins when comfort becomes your master. If you always choose the easiest option, your capacity for difficulty becomes weaker. If you constantly escape discomfort, ordinary challenges begin to feel unbearable. If you train yourself to quit whenever something becomes difficult, quitting eventually becomes part of your identity. But the opposite is also true. Every time you willingly face something difficult, you expand your capacity to endure. You wake up when you said you would. You complete the work when motivation disappears. You continue learning when progress feels slow. You remain disciplined when nobody is praising you. You walk away from distractions because you know what they are costing you. These choices may appear insignificant, but they are building something far more important than a productive day. They are building you. The person who masters themselves learns to delay gratification because they understand that the best things in life often require patience. A strong body requires repeated effort. A meaningful career requires years of development. Wisdom requires experience and reflection. Trust requires consistency. Financial stability requires discipline. A peaceful mind requires boundaries and self-control. Everything valuable asks you to sacrifice something temporary. The question is whether you are willing to make that sacrifice. Many people want the result without becoming the person capable of sustaining the result. They want success without discipline, respect without integrity, confidence without competence, peace without boundaries, strength without discomfort. But life does not work that way. You become capable of carrying more when you have trained yourself to carry what is already in your hands. This is why the Stoic does not obsess over becoming powerful in the eyes of other people. The Stoic focuses on becoming dependable in their own eyes. When you know you can trust yourself, confidence becomes quieter. You no longer need to announce your strength. You demonstrate it through your choices. You do not need to tell everyone that you are disciplined. Your habits reveal it. You do not need to tell everyone that you are emotionally strong. Your reactions reveal it. You do not need to tell everyone that you have changed. Your life reveals it. This is one of the most beautiful forms of transformation because it requires very little explanation. Your behavior becomes the evidence. And there is another area where self-mastery becomes essential: your relationship with other people. You cannot control how people treat you. You cannot force someone to respect you. You cannot make someone love you. You cannot make someone understand your heart. You cannot force someone to remain in your life. Trying to control these things creates exhaustion. The Stoic understands that relationships should be approached with sincerity, not possession. Give love without becoming dependent on another person's behavior for your identity. Give respect without begging for it in return. Be generous without allowing yourself to be repeatedly exploited. Set boundaries without hatred. Walk away without needing revenge. This is emotional maturity. Sometimes the greatest evidence that you have mastered yourself is not that you can make someone stay. It is that you can allow someone to leave without abandoning yourself. You can care about someone and still recognize that the relationship is unhealthy. You can forgive someone without inviting them to hurt you again. You can wish someone well without giving them unlimited access to your life. You can release resentment without pretending that what happened was acceptable. This is the kind of strength that protects your peace without turning your heart into stone. The Stoics understood that anger can feel powerful while actually making you vulnerable. When another person knows exactly what makes you angry, they know how to control your attention. They can provoke you with a sentence. They can manipulate you with silence. They can disturb you with a message. They can destroy your concentration simply by knowing which emotional button to press. But imagine becoming the kind of person who can recognize the provocation without surrendering control. Someone insults you. You hear it. You examine it. You decide whether there is anything useful in it. Then, you continue with your life. That is power. not because the insult disappeared, but because it failed to take possession of your mind. This is why emotional control should never be confused with emotional suppression. Suppression says, I am not allowed to feel this. Mastery says, I feel this, but I choose what happens next. That difference can change your relationships, your career, your decisions, and your peace. You begin listening to anger without becoming anger. You acknowledge fear without becoming fear. You experience disappointment without becoming disappointment. You recognize desire without allowing desire to dictate your values. Your emotions become information rather than commands. And when you reach that level of self-command, you become much more difficult for circumstances to defeat. There will still be days when you feel weak. There will still be moments when you make mistakes. There will still be times when you lose your temper, procrastinate, doubt yourself, or choose comfort over discipline. Self-mastery does not mean perfection. It means returning to the path. The weak mindset says, I failed, so I might as well give up. The disciplined mindset says, I failed, so I will learn and continue. One mistake does not have to become an identity. One bad day does not have to become a bad life. One failure does not have to become a permanent verdict. You are allowed to begin again. In fact, beginning again may be one of the most important skills you ever develop, because life will interrupt your plans. You will become tired. You will experience loss. You will encounter unexpected problems. Your motivation will disappear. There will be seasons when progress feels invisible. During those seasons, discipline becomes more important than inspiration. You do not need to feel powerful to make a powerful decision. You do not need to feel motivated to take the next step. You do not need to feel confident to begin. Action can come before emotion. That is something many people never learn. They wait until they feel ready. The Stoic understands that readiness is often created through action. You begin while uncertain. You continue while uncomfortable. You improve while imperfect. And gradually, competence creates confidence. The person you want to become is built through the actions you take when you do not yet feel like that person. If you want to become disciplined, practice discipline. If you want to become courageous, practice courage. If you want to become patient, practice patience. If you want to become emotionally stable, practice restraint. If you want to become wise, practice reflection. You do not think your way into character. You practice your way into it. And this is why your ordinary days matter so much. Your life is not built only during major decisions. It is built in the quiet moments nobody sees. What you do with an empty evening matters. What you consume when nobody is watching matters. How you speak to people who cannot benefit you matters. How you behave when you are frustrated matters. What you do after failure matters. What you do when you are given an opportunity to take an easier but dishonest path matters. Character is created in these moments. Eventually, those small decisions become habits. Habits become patterns. Patterns become character. And character shapes destiny. This is why mastering yourself can make you extremely difficult to stop. You stop needing perfect conditions. You stop waiting for permission. You stop depending on applause. You stop allowing temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. You become adaptable. You become resilient. You become focused. You become harder to manipulate. You become harder to distract. You become harder to discourage. The world may still knock on your door with problems, but you no longer open the door and invite every problem inside your mind. You learn what deserves your attention. You learn what deserves your energy. You learn what deserves your response. And perhaps most importantly, you learn what deserves nothing from you at all. That is wisdom. Not every battle deserves to be fought. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every person deserves access to you. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. Not every desire deserves to be fulfilled. Not every thought deserves to be believed. A mastered mind knows the difference. The older you become, the more you realize that peace is not something you stumble upon. It is something you protect. You protect it through boundaries, through discipline, through careful choices, through the people you allow close to you, through the information you consume, through the habits you practice, through the battles you refuse to fight, and through the stories you tell yourself about your life. You cannot always choose what happens, but you can choose the meaning you give it. You can look at hardship and see evidence that life is against you, or you can see evidence that you are being given another opportunity to strengthen your character. You can look at rejection and decide that you are worthless, or you can accept that not every door was meant to open. You can look at failure and decide that you are incapable, or you can use failure as information. You can look at solitude and call yourself abandoned, or you can use solitude to finally hear your own thoughts. The event is one thing, your interpretation is another. Master the interpretation, and you begin changing the experience. This does not mean lying to yourself. It means refusing to make your circumstances larger than your capacity to respond to them. You are stronger than many of the moments you currently fear. You have already survived things you once believed would destroy you. You have already experienced disappointments that once seemed impossible to overcome. You have already walked through days you thought you could not survive, and you are still here. That should tell you something. There is more strength inside you than your current circumstances may reveal. But strength becomes useful only when it is trained. Do not wait for life to force you to become disciplined. Choose discipline voluntarily. Do not wait for betrayal to teach you boundaries. Learn boundaries before betrayal. Do not wait for failure to teach you resilience. Practice resilience now. Do not wait until everything falls apart before you learn to control your mind. Train your mind while life is still relatively calm, because the strongest people are not necessarily those who have experienced the worst circumstances. They are often those who used ordinary circumstances to prepare themselves for extraordinary difficulty. This is the essence of the Stoic path. Prepare your mind before the storm arrives. Build your character before temptation arrives. Strengthen your discipline before opportunity arrives. Develop your values before pressure arrives. Because when the moment comes, you will not suddenly become someone new. You will reveal who your habits have already made you. That is why mastery of yourself must come first. Before wealth, before status, before recognition, before influence, before success. Because if you gain everything without gaining control over yourself, you may eventually lose everything through the weaknesses you refuse to confront. But if you master yourself first, even when circumstances change, you carry your greatest possession with you: your character, your discipline, your judgment, your courage, your self-control, your ability to remain yourself when the world tries to turn you into someone else. And that is why nothing in this world can truly stop the person who has learned to command themselves. They may be delayed, but not defeated. They may be rejected, but not destroyed. They may fall, but they rise wiser. They may lose, but they learn. They may suffer, but they refuse to become bitter. They may walk alone, but they do not abandon themselves. Their strength does not come from believing that nothing bad will happen. Their strength comes from knowing that whatever happens, they will meet it with everything they have. That is the final transformation. You stop trying to become invincible. You become resilient. You stop demanding that life guarantee your success. You become capable of continuing without guarantees. You stop asking whether the road will be easy. You become willing to walk it anyway. And one day, you look back and realize that the person you were afraid of becoming was never some extraordinary stranger. It was you, after years of discipline. You, after choosing courage repeatedly. You, after learning to control your mind. You, after refusing to let temporary emotions destroy permanent goals. You, after becoming comfortable with discomfort. You, after learning that peace is stronger than revenge. You, after understanding that self-respect is more valuable than approval. You, after discovering that the greatest victory is not defeating another person. It is becoming someone you no longer need to escape from. Master yourself first. Then the world may challenge you, but it will not define you. It may disappoint you, but it will not destroy your identity. It may delay you, but it cannot decide where you ultimately go. It may take things from you, but it cannot take the character you have built within yourself. Because when you master yourself, you carry your strength wherever you go. And that is the kind of strength no circumstance can permanently take away. If this message spoke to you, if you are serious about becoming stronger, calmer, more disciplined, and more difficult to control, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Here, we are not chasing perfection. We are building character, mastering the mind, and becoming stronger one decision at a time. Stay on the path.